We now know what we want to build, so let's try to answer the question of why we'd use React. And I think a good strategy is to start building a version of the playlist using the DOM APIs. This way, we see the problem that comes with this approach, we then point it out, sketch the way React solves it, and move on to using React in the next video. I'll first create a new folder on my desktop and call it playlist, because that's what we're building. Then I run Visual Studio Code and open the folder. I'll start by creating an index.html file, which will be the entry point of the application, and an index.js file, which will contain all our JavaScript. Inside index.html, I'll create a basic HTML5 document. And inside body, I'll add a script tag pointing to index.js. I'm placing it at the end of the body section so that the DOM is ready by the time the script starts executing. Since we're building a playlist, the first thing we want to do is create an unordered list element that will contain our list of songs. So in index.js, I'll create a URL element with create element and append it to body. We also need to populate the list with songs. That's why I'll define an array of songs and fill it with some titles. Next, I'll add a list item element to the unordered list for each song. I'll do that by iterating through the array of songs. For each song, I'll create a list item element and set its text content to the song title. Finally, I'll append the element to the unordered list. If we go to the browser and then open index.html, you can see the list populated with songs, and in the developer tools, you see what the DOM structure looks like. Here's the list and the list item for each song. We also need some buttons that will allow us to delete a song or move it up or down in the list. Let's add them. First, the delete button. I'll set its text content to delete and append it to the list item. Then the move up button. And finally the move down button. If we switch back to the browser and refresh, you can see the buttons. Since the first item can be moved up and the last item can be moved down, we should disable the first move up button and the last move down button. So let's go back to code and do that. I'll obtain the index of the current song, then disable the move up button if the index is 0, and the move down button if we're at the last song. When we refresh the browser, you can see the buttons are disabled as expected. It's time to add some interactivity to the application. To implement the delete button, I'll add an event listener for the click event, and when it's triggered, I'll remove the list item from the DOM and also remove the song from the array of songs. Let's refresh the browser and try to delete an item. Everything looks good at first, but if you try to delete the first item, you can see that the item that's taking its place doesn't have the button disabled. The same happens for the last item. And this makes sense because we only disable the buttons when we create the list items. This is not enough. We should also check what buttons need to be disabled every time we change the array of songs, because it's possible that some items have been removed or changed their position. I'll start writing a function for this, which I'll call setButtonStates. Inside, I need to find the buttons and disable them appropriately. And to find them, I'm thinking of adding a custom dataAction attribute on each button. The DOM provides a dataset property for this, and I set datasetAction to move up for all the up buttons, and to move down for the down buttons. If we refresh the browser, You see they all have a data action attribute now. Back to set button states. I start by finding all our app buttons. I can use query selector all, which is provided by the DOM, to find all elements with a data action attribute and the value move up. If we have at least one such element, then the first must be the up button from the first song, so I disable it. And we can find the down buttons by looking for all elements that have a data action attribute with a value of move down. The same thing applies here. If we have at least one such element, then the last one must be the down button belonging to the last song, so I disable that as well. Now that we have this function, we can call it after we delete an item. We still have the code that disables the buttons when we create them, so I remove it and instead call setButtonStates after we're done populating the list. Let's refresh the browser and delete the first item. You can see it's working. The last item is also working as expected. By this time, I think the problem with using the DOM is becoming obvious. Think about everything we had to do to delete an item from the list. We removed the element from the DOM, removed the song from the songs list, and updated the buttons to reflect the new state of the list. And this is just one button doing one simple task. Imagine how difficult it is to keep the interface in sync with the state when you're building complex interfaces with lots of interdependencies. I skip adding the move up and move down functionality because it's more of the same thing. It would be nice if there existed a library that we could use to set the state of the application, and every time we change the state, let the library update the DOM to reflect the changes. And this is exactly what React does. Everything we've implemented so far can be done with React by having a songs array represent the state of the application and then letting React take care of updating the DOM based on that state. If we want to delete an item, we just remove it from the songs array and React will take care of efficiently updating the DOM to reflect the change. In the next video, we'll add React to the project, and for the rest of the course, we'll see how to build a playlist application with React.